Hi everyone, and welcome to another video in SwiftUI. So today I'm going to introduce to you a very important statement in SwiftUI, and that is called ForEach. This ForEach statement is used to construct multiple views, and instead of repeating the code, you can use this statement to display or add multiple views to your screen. We're going to start with a simple example. We will have an array of emojis of these foods, and we list them in a B stack. After that, we will have a more complex example, which we will have a structure. We will create a structure. In this structure, we'll have the emoji and we'll have the food name. Now, this is just prelude to the next topic that I'm going to cover, which is lists and forms in SwiftUI. So let's get started, and then I'm just going to show you. I already created a project. You can do that with me as well. And I called it form example. Okay, for each example. Now we can do the same thing as well. You can do this with me. So this is what we get in the content view, and then delete that, and then we have nothing in the content view. So typically, when you want to list things, usually it comes from an array or a collection in Swift. So I created an array here, and I'm going to put it in here. This is a simple array of strings. The values in these strings are just emojis, and then you can add emojis from here. You can go to edit, and then you can select the emojis that you want. All right, for each value. Now, what you can do is that you can say for each. You notice here, and then for each statement, you need to provide the list that you want to construct, and that list is going to come from the array. All right, but in addition to that, because we're using just simple array here, you need to provide an ID, and the ID is used to identify each element in that array. So you typically have an array, and then we will use /self. So self is used basically as an ID for each object. And remember, self refers to the object itself. And now you have to provide the content for that for each. And for each is used for views. So I can type in, for example, text, hello there. And what's going to happen? It's going to list hello there, the number of arrays, the number of times in the array. All right. And we got a problem here. Oh, all right. So because you're using for each, you need to specify, basically, you can iterate throughout these elements in the array. So you need to give them an ID. Either you can just do it that way, all right, and then put in, and then this would be the code that you want to repeat. Okay, this is a closure, if you remember closure discussion. So this is going to be repeated 4 times because we have 4 elements in the array. This is not what we want. What we want is that we want to display the emojis from the array. So now I can need to reference. So I can create kind of like a counter. Remember we talked about foods. An array. I'm sorry, for loop. You can have counter. You can have index. So this is the same thing. So this is going to go through the array. This is the name of the array. Each time the value of that element will be, or each time this value will be in this variable here. So the first time it will have the green apple, the next time you have the red apple, orange, and banana. So because we have 4, it will be repeated 4 times. But instead of that, what I want to use fruit. So if I can do this here, for example, again, remember fruit is going to be repeated the number of times in the array. So I got my apples in here. I can format this text. I can do, for example, padding. So give it a spacing, all right, little bit spacing, and then I can make it bigger, for example. So I can say font, and then I can make it maybe large or just title, and then it will make it a bit bigger. Or if you want to make it bigger, not bigger than that, you can do large title. Okay, so that's how we listed the array. Now, if you listed the fruit. Now, if you want to add another fruit, you just simply, all you have to do is go in here, the array, and let's insert another emoji. So you go to the edit, emojis, and let's select something else. And all right, we got that, we got banana, we can use grapes. All right, so now we have grapes, bananas, oranges, and then notice all you have to do is that when you add it to the array, it will be listed in the content view. Now that's a simple example of how to use ForEach. So all you have to do, you provide the list, and in this case, it's an array, and the values that we want to construct, so or list. So we use the name of the array. You have to give it an ID because this array or this array of things does not provide an ID, so we use the self as an ID. Then we have the element that will be changed. We'll iterate through these elements. So the first time it's going to be the green apple, then the red apple, and so forth. All right. So this is a simple example, but if we wanted to put the fruit and then its name next to it, so how do we do that? Now, one way to do that, we can create another array. For example, put another array here and put it here next to it, and then you will put the name. Now, that's not what we typically do, because what if we want something else? If you want the number of kilos that you have of these fruits. So you can see this is the problem. So what can we do? Can we do something better than this? Typically, what we have, if you want to have a data type that represent multiple values, remember from previous discussions, what can we use? We can use structs, all right? So I can define a structure, and this struct is going to be called fruit, and it's singular typically, and there is something called identifiable. Now, this is a protocol, which it means that this structure adheres to identifiable protocol. Now, you don't know what that means now, and we haven't explained it. All you need to know that all we are doing is that we're giving each object that we create from this structure an ID. And then we're going to create this ID automatically. Now, if you notice, it'll tell you that you don't have an ID, okay? So you need to add ID. Now, let's try that one and see what happens. So it gave it an object identifier. But we do something better. You say, I'm going to use a unique identifier, UUID, and this will give me a unique identifier for every object that I create. So to adhere to this identifier, if we say this is identifiable, I must provide a variable called ID, and it has to have a unique value in it. All right, so this will ensure that I have a unique value. All right. Now you can say, what do I want else in this structure? You want, for example, the emoji. And then this is going to be a string. And then I'm going to define the name of that fruit. And then this is going to be a string as well. Okay, so now we are smarter. We know more. We created a data model or a data type. It's called a structure, and that structure represents my truth. So now I don't just simply create a simple array of fruits. We create an array of structures that represent each fruit. So how can I do that? I can do the same thing. I can say fruit bar. So here you can type fruits, still an array. This is going to be an array, okay? Array of what? Now I'm going to just put a square bracket here and a square bracket here. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a fruit, okay, object, and then I'm going to provide the emoji. Let me just make that bigger so you can see. So I'm going to provide the emoji for that one. So I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to put it here, and then the name. So the name of that is going to be green apple. And notice here, I did not provide the ID, which is this value, because this one has a default value and it's going to be assigned by the system and give me a unique value. So I'm good. All right. So this is good. This is only one element. So if you want to create more elements in your array, you put a comma, and then you just simply repeat this. So command copy, command V, and now it's going to be a red apple. So I can copy that from here, command copy, then put that in here. And then here it's going to say, oh, my apples are three. And this is going to be a red apple. And then again, if you want more, you do copy, command V, and then just keep repeating the number of elements that you want to have in your array. So I'm going to do one more here and one more here. So we have 5. This is going to be an orange. And so instead of finding that emoji from there, I'm going to copy it in here. And then B, then we stick the banana, and then copy, and then B, and then we're going to do the grapes, and then copy, and then V. And now I can change this to, here it's going to be orange. And this is going to be banana. And this is going to be red grapes. Okay. Okay, so this is typically what you do when you try to create a data store. You need to represent, you define the structure that represents your data, and typically it has multiple values. And that is why you create a structure, because it will have multiple values. Each data type has multiple values. Now, we don't have any methods here yet, but it's simply just a bunch of attributes. And now, if you want to create a list of them, we use an array, a collection that has copies of this object. We create an instance of these fruits. So now I've created all these fruits in my list, and it has the emoji in each one of them, and it has the name of it. Now, if you want more, you could add more if you want. For example, for a var, and then you can say price and double if you want to, but we're not doing that, okay? We're just simply putting the list of these fruits. So if you do that, it will cause you a problems here because it's looking for another parameter, which is the price. So we delete that and go back to what we have. All right. Now, for the for each, notice I have the fruit. I'm not just simply listing a fruit here because now I have an array of objects. And I can't just take an object and make a text view out of it. I need to take the name and the apple and the emoji and make views out of it. So few things we need to change. Because this one has an ID, no need for the ID anymore. So that's good. That made things simpler. So that's the first one. And then for the text, it's not just simply a text. Now, if I want to put the emoji, I have to put the name of the object, which is fruit, and then, which is fruit from here. And inside of it, I have all these attributes which we defined above. And here I have the emoji. So for example, I can select from the list the emoji. Now you're not going to see anything different here, but we will make it better in a minute. Okay, so if I do refresh here, that's good, that worked. But what about if I want to display the, if I wanted to display the name of each fruit? What we can do, we can copy this for now and see what happens. If I do this, Command B, and now instead of emoji, I'm going to use name. But we have a problem, right? So we'll say the apple, green apple, apple, big apple. Looks okay if you want to do it that way. But maybe you want to put the fruit next to it, the fruit and the name next to it. So what do I have to do in order to do that? We can put it in a horizontal stack. And then all I have to do is put a horizontal stack here. And now you'll notice what will happen. Okay. And you can change the alignment of this view because right now it is horizontal stack. It's in the center. What you can do, you can change the alignment here. You can pass to the constructor alignment. And then from the alignment, you can specify that I want it to be a leading value. So this is an enumerated value. So leading. Oh, this is okay. We need to do that for the vertical stack, not the horizontal stack. All right, because the alignment is in the vertical stack. So I need to do that here, alignment, and then here we will put leading. And then let's see what happens. Better, right? Okay. Oops. So this is what you can use for each in SwiftUI. It's used to create views and add them to your screens, if you will. All right. So you don't want the padding. Maybe you don't want this in each element. Let's see what happens. But maybe we do need padding. Okay, let's put padding in one of them. Let's see what happens. All right, so you can play around with this. So that is a simple example of what we can use for each statement in SwiftUI. Very powerful model though. Every time you have a list and you have multiple values, you define a structure that represents these values. You define an ID that makes it adhere to the identifier protocol. And then after that, typically we create an array. This array contains a list of those objects that I want to list. Okay. And then you either use a list, you can use for each, but later on, this is a simple example. If you want to just list them in this format, a list provide a lot more functionalities and features, and that's what we're going to cover in the next example. All right, so I'll see you in the next video.